Happy is pleased to welcome Mark Alexander-ERBER from Golden Robot Global Entertainment to discuss an upcoming Golden Robot release of the first new original music from former Whitesnake and then Lizzy guitarist John Sykes. Mark, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Kris, thanks for having me, brother. Good to see you, my man.
No worries at all, bro. So this is a pretty important bit of a conversation we're going to have here, bro. So for those who don't know, John Sykes is was an English guitarist and singer, best known as a member of Whitesnake, then Lizzy, and Tygers of Pan Tang, who we tragically lost in January this year to cancer. But the band's released a lot of music over the years with various bands and solo projects. So firstly, tell us about the relationship between Golden Robot and John Sykes.
Well, John was introduced to me in the very early days of Golden Robot, and we struck a deal up in about Golden Robot started about 2015, and we struck a deal up about 2017 for an album, and it was really his first album in many years. And during that period, over 18, 19, 20, I got to know him pretty well because I was traveling to Los Angeles so much. Many dinners, introduced to family. I did a NAMM with him in LA, which is the big event. And I walked NAMM with him, and he was honestly like a god walking through there. He was like the Red Sea parted for Jesus. It was unbelievable how well revered this guy was and how loved he was. And at that stage, we were putting together a band for him to go out on tour, etc., etc.
Nice. So what was the actual original deal and original contract between the two parties?
The original deal was for John to deliver an album.
Right.
And it was as simple as that. And we had paid him a certain amount of money to deliver up to a certain point. And that was happening. And then we were delivering him more money past another certain point, which wasn't happening. So, look, I've dealt with many rock stars and many artists and many people over the last 10 years. And, you've got to do things in tranches. There's got to be give and take on both sides. So what we paid for and what we were waiting for was two different things. But we worked our way through it, like we did with many bands in those days.
Yeah. So despite a lot of documented back and forth between the two of you, like the essence of the contract had yet to be fulfilled at the time when John passed. So what was still contractually owed?
An album, a full album.
All right. Yeah. And that's that wasn't delivered in any capacity at all?
No, the album wasn't delivered. Only demos, good demos, were delivered up to a certain point.
Yeah, nice. Now, you mentioned earlier at the top of the show that you also had a personal relationship with John outside of business. So tell us a bit more about that personal relationship and some of your fondest memories of him.
Look, I don't have a bad word to say about John. There were some things in business that I wish were taken care of better, but overall, he was a great guy, very knowledgeable. I mean, to hear the story of the 87 Whitesnake album from him was incredible. What happened during that period, how, before the album was finished, basically everyone was sacked, how he drove that David Coverdale in his Jag. It's the best story. Best story. And then he'd tell me that every year he'd go to his letterbox and there'd be a check for $1 million in there every year at the same time, royalty check.
Wow.
So, yeah, so it was super cool. I had many dinners with him in LA, got to know him, got to know his son, etc. But he was a really nice guy. He was, English gentleman, got the raw prawn, the old Aussie saying, got the raw prawn on a few occasions, certainly with Whitesnake. But he just got on with it. So, I was lucky and honored to be part of his life for that period that I was, for sure. And we had many great conversations on the phone and in person.
Yeah, nice. Now, you mentioned the 4 demo recordings that you've ended up with. So what era were those recorded in, and what do the demo versions sound like?
There was On this new EP that we've got coming out, there's going to be two songs that have never been heard before, which are absolute ball breakers, and there's two songs that have been out only on YouTube, and these are a play on those songs. These are different versions of those songs. Um, the demos were recorded beautifully. We've had them remastered, and they are crackers. The two songs that have never been released before, I believe, in my professional opinion, is some of the best work he's ever done.
Right, and then who's actually playing with him, or like who's making up the band that he's playing with on those?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's different for all of them. I'd have to get you the list of who it is, but there's different musicians playing on everything.
Yeah,
But
nice.
well-known session guys out of LA.
So there, at the time when he gave you those demos, like, was there a plan then to have them mastered and released like in the near future, or were they just something that he wanted to put aside and hold on to for a bit?
No, these were going to be part of the album.
Right. Oh, the full album that he was doing for you?
Correct.
Nice. Nice. And
I believe, sorry, Kris, I believe there's other tracks out there, probably in his archives that never made it to us.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So at the time of John's passing, then, like, it's a bit of a touchy subject, and I hate to bring it up, but it's sort of relevant to what we're talking about. Like, those songs, because of the contract you had before, those songs remain they remain the property of Golden Robot Records. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. No, we are absolutely the owners of those songs, or of those recordings. The songs, as you know, there's the music and there's the recordings. When you pay an artist for the songs, you either do it in two ways. You either pay them under a license or you pay them under the master's deal. We own these songs. We own the recordings of these songs. And, it's not our first rodeo. And I have had it checked out in the US, in the UK, and in Australia, the contract to make sure that we're right and the music is viable for us to release. And there's no issue. It's 100% right. And I've got so much documentation other than the contract and et cetera, et cetera. So there's no issues. This music's coming out. And let me just say that whatever proportion of the contract was meant to give to John, whatever percentage John was going to get, the estate will get.
Yeah, nice. Good on you, mate. Good on you. So you did mention before that you've got the masters back. They've been remastered. They're ready to go. So how good are they? Like, how good do they sound?
Oh, when I pressed play on one of them, it's very Whitesnake-esque. One of them's very Whitesnake. One of them's very Thin Lizzy. One of them's very Tygers. It's got like everything that he's done in the past is there. That balls out, loud guitar, chunky. His voice, I reckon he had one of the most underrated voices of all time. He was a guitarist. Everyone that I know, from the Steve Stevens with Billy Idol to all the different people that we dealt with over the years that are guitar players, all love John Sykes. John Sykes was the sort of the cornerstone of why a lot of people picked a guitar up in the first place or got into music in the first place. So he was well revered across the world, and we're just extremely honored to have this music. And the music is coming out really in celebration of his life. That would be the real reason. I just think if we're sitting on something, and there was a lot of conjecture over the years why we didn't release the album, and there's a lot of reasons why we didn't. Well, I won't go into it here, but there was, a lot of reasons why we didn't release the album with John. But this music is too good to sit on.
So just to clarify, is he singing and playing on all four songs, or is he?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, nice. Nice.
And he wrote all four songs.
Now, you mentioned packaging them into an EP. So what's that structure going to be like? Are you going to release a couple of singles first, or are they just all coming out together into one package?
No, we're going to do two singles, and we're going to do two singles followed by an EP of 4 tracks. And at this stage, I'm pretty confident to say, as a world exclusive to you, Kris, because I like you, and you're a hard man, you're very supportive. The EP will be called My Guitar.
Very nice. Right. And has that got relevance to any of the songs, or is that just because he is who he is?
Yes, it does. And I think it's fitting. You know, we used to talk about one of the songs that you'll find. Um, he sings in it. One of the lyrics is "Thank God for my guitar," and um, he used to say that a lot. Thank God for his guitar. It got him through a lot of things. Got him out of a lot of things. And he's written a song about that, and we're lucky enough to be able to have it, and that'll be the first single.
Nice. And have you got a release schedule for songs?
Yeah, we're potentially looking at around June, late June for the first single. Um, and then potentially a couple of months later the second single, then a couple of months later the EP. I'd like to do the EP on digital and CD.
Yeah. Nice. So where can people actually get themselves a copy or pre-order or keep up to date with what's happening?
Keep a look on our website, www.goldenrobotrecords.com. The EP will be on the shop there. And I'll also let you know as well what's going on so you can keep the listeners. But I'm pretty confident that this story is going to get picked up everywhere, from the Blabbermouth to the Rock Pits to whatever, and it'll be out there. So, you know, it's going to stir up a lot of emotion about John. I'm hoping it stirs it up in a good way because this is all about his legacy. And, you know, I don't know what the estate is planning, if they're planning anything, but John was um, very introverted. He was an introverted character. As extroverted as he was on stage, I found him quite introverted. So he didn't like a fuss on anything. The one thing he did love, and he talked about a lot, and there actually is a video clip of me and him at NAMM talking. He was very well aware it was a long time between drinks for him, meaning music, not physical drinks, but it was a long time between releases. And he was always really enamored that he was always very thankful that his fans stuck in there with him. He always loved his fans. There's one thing that we talked about a lot, how much he loved his fans. So this is really for his fans. And I think it would be wrong of us to sit on it and not put it out to celebrate his life. That's the way I look at it.
And then the other thing too, bro, like a lot of people, because you're always going to get the haters no matter what you do, but the fact is you could have released it straight away after he passed and you could have cashed in on that tragic side of his life, but you've chosen to leave it at least 6 months later to even start mentioning it to people in public. So that in itself has got to show that you're doing it for the right reasons.
Look, Kris, I could have released this while he was alive. I mean, I could have done whatever I wanted and then it would have been a war. You know, he might not want it to have come out. I mean, who knows? I know he loved these 4 tracks. I don't know what his mind state was, or state of mind, I should say, over the last couple of years. We didn't speak that often. Our relationship was 18, 19, 20, 21. But I always did the right thing by John. I just left it. Although we were out of pocket, we were very much out of pocket. I just left it. So when he passed away, I thought, well, you know, let's do the right thing and put it out. But there's a timing as well. So by the time this comes out, the EP comes out, you know, it'll nearly been a year since he passed. And I think if we just talk about the fans, you know, I've been through so many different things with Golden Robot. I've been through the whole LA Guns thing with the 2 LA Guns and the fight and all these different things and all these different things that we've done over the years. And when, you know, you read all the comments on social media or on Blabbermouth or this or that, and at the end of the day, there's so many keyboard warriors out there that I don't give a fuck about, and I know a lot of people don't. It just whittles down sometimes just to the fans. And I remember reading that about LA Guns. If you didn't like Riley's LA Guns, don't buy the record. But if you're a music fan, buy the record because it's good music. And it's the same with this with John. If you're a music fan and you love that era of music, the Whitesnake and Thin Lizzy, etc., then you're going to love this music because it's for the fans. And that's what this is all about.
Fantastic, Mark. Well, thanks very much for your time, mate. I look forward to hearing it because 25 years between drinks for new music from the guy is a long time, but I'm sure it's going to be worth it.
Oh, look, this EP, My Guitar, is going to be wonderful. And I'm, you know, really proud to be putting it out. And thanks, Kris, for the support.